There was a photo on my flash drive of me standing inside a house my mother didn't buy until the year 2000. And the camera's date stamp said 1994. I should have been an infant. I wasn't. I looked about 5 or 6 years old, standing there, clear as anything, in a house that didn't exist for me yet. I've been trying to explain that for weeks now. I still can't. My fiancé and I are both 30, and we'd been together long enough that a 3-hour drive home after a long weekend was just routine. We'd done it before. We knew the route. We knew the towns, the highway stretches, the little landmarks you stop noticing after the second or third time. It was familiar in that comfortable, almost unconscious way a drive can be when you've made it a dozen times. It was raining that evening, a real storm, not just a drizzle. But I wasn't worried. I had the wheel. I knew the road. What I didn't account for was how tired I was. It crept up on me the way exhaustion does on a long drive, not all at once, but in slow, patient waves. My eyes started doing that long, heavy flutter, the kind where you don't realize they've closed until they snap back open. I asked my fiancé to put on some music. She was mostly asleep on her side of the car, not exactly holding up her end of the co-pilot agreement, but she managed to pull up a playlist on her Spotify. An album we'd both listened to probably 100 times. Something familiar, something steady. She drifted back off. I kept driving. The music played. I don't know exactly when I blinked the long one, the one that lasted just a half second too long. But I jerked awake to the music still playing. Same album, same song. Except it wasn't. Not quite. The cadence was different. The production felt slightly off. Like a version of the song I'd never heard before. A mild remix that you would only catch if you knew the album as well as I did. And I knew it cold. I asked my fiancée if she noticed. She brushed me off, still half asleep. So I stayed quiet and kept listening. Every song that came on after was the same, recognizable but wrong, like hearing your own voice played back at a slightly different pitch. Close enough that you might doubt yourself, not close enough that you can let it go. I didn't say anything. I drove. I panicked quietly. My friends and I had joked before, the kind of late-night joke you don't entirely mean, about slipping sideways into a parallel universe. It's usually a funny thought. That night in the rain, it wasn't funny. It filled me with a cold dread I couldn't name, and underneath that dread was something worse. The thought that if something had shifted, if I had crossed into some slightly different version of everything, then I was alone in it. My fiancé was right there in the passenger seat, and I was terrified of being alone. Then she gasped. She came awake, not groggy, not slow. She came awake fast and said that wasn't the right note for that song. We looked at each other. She started searching on her phone immediately, trying to find an explanation. And we found one, or something that looked like one. All the streaming versions of the album had been replaced months ago, according to everything she was reading. A fully reproduced version on every platform, released months before that night, except we streamed that album on her Spotify constantly. We had never heard this version before. Not once. My physical copy, the album I'd bought directly on my phone, still sounded exactly as we remembered. The streaming version sounded like something that had been quietly swapped out while we weren't looking. We made the joke, moving to an alternate universe. It fell flat for both of us, and neither of us really tried to revive it. Then the water started coming in. It poured in through the passenger side dashboard. Not a drip, not a small leak, but a real pour of water, enough that my fiancé had to mop it up as it came. The car was relatively new. It had been inspected recently. We were mid-drive, in motion, and somehow water was flooding in through the dashboard on her side. She managed to get it under control, and within a couple of minutes, it stopped, just as abruptly as it had started. Enough water had come through that she had to lift the rubber mat at her feet and pour it out. We were both quiet after that. It was somewhere around this point that I noticed the landscape. The GPS insisted we were on our usual route, but nothing outside looked familiar. The roads, the land passing by in the dark and the rain. None of it matched what I expected to see on a drive I'd made a dozen times. We chalked it up to the storm, to our own anxiety, to how disorienting heavy rain can be on a road you think you know. But every time we passed something new, something neither of us recognized, we'd look at each other. We didn't say anything. We just looked. We finished the drive. We got home. We told ourselves to let it go. We almost managed it. For a few days, we almost managed it. Then I found out that Shannon Doherty had died. In July, I had a clear, specific memory of seeing an interview with her. Recent, or what I'd taken to be recent, where she talked about finally beating her cancer. A real interview with real context, the kind of thing you remember because it made you feel relieved. According to everything I could find, that wasn't possible. She was gone. I told myself, maybe it was an old clip I'd misread as new. I told myself social media does that sometimes. It didn't sit right, but I left it there. Then came the flash drive. I sat down with my fiancé to look through some old photos. On the same drive I've been using for over 10 years. I had reorganized everything on it just last year. I knew what was on it. Except some photos that should have been there weren't. And there were photos and videos I had never seen before in my life. On my own drive, the same one I'd sorted through 12 months ago. And then we found the photo. A photo with a camera date stamp from 1994. Printed right there on the image in that glowing digital font older cameras used. And in that photo, I was standing inside my mother's house, a house she didn't buy until the year 2000. I should have been an infant in 1994. The child in that photo looked 5 or 6 years old. None of the other photos from that same day on that same drive had any date error. Just that one. Wrong. Around the same time, my fiancé pointed out that our pets had been acting differently since we got home. They'd been unusually excited when we returned, more affectionate than normal, in a way that had continued in the days after. One of our kittens seemed noticeably bigger, which kittens do grow, but we'd only been gone 3 days. And the betta fish, she had been blue with purple edges. Now she was red with blue edges. We went through the explanations: lighting, water pH, the angle you're standing at when you look at the tank. We went through all of them. We're still going through them. There's no clean ending to this. I want to be honest about that. We got home. Things continued to feel just slightly wrong in that persistent, low-level way that's almost harder to deal with than something dramatic. Not one enormous, impossible thing, just a steady accumulation of moments where both of us stop and think. That's not how it was before. And we know it, both of us, separately and together. We're trying to use logic. For each individual thing, there is usually some version of a logical explanation available if you reach for it hard enough. An album gets reproduced and re-released without a big announcement. A leak in a car happens. A flash drive corrupts. Memory is imperfect. Cats grow. Fish change color under different conditions. We know all of this. We are applying all of this. It's just that the explanations don't fully settle the feeling. I've been having random bouts of insomnia since we got back. That's new too. I wrote the first version of this at 1 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, and I'm still turning it all over. My fiancé and I have talked about it, quietly, without quite naming what we're actually afraid of. What we keep coming back to, underneath all the logic and the explanations, is simple. We're moving forward in a place we're not sure we came from. I'm not here to tell you we slipped into a parallel universe. I genuinely don't know what happened. I don't think I'll ever know with certainty. What I do know is this: both of us noticed, independently, separately, repeatedly. We kept catching each other's eyes at the exact moment something felt off. That's not nothing. Two people don't have the same wrong feeling at the same wrong moment over and over, and have it mean nothing. Maybe everything has a rational explanation. Maybe the drive home was just a bad night with bad luck and tired eyes, and the rest is our brains, still anxious, looking for patterns. Maybe. But I also know what it felt like to look at that photo of me in a house that shouldn't have existed yet, at an age I shouldn't have been, and feel the ground shift slightly under everything I thought I knew. Some things you can't quite put back the way they were. That feeling is one of them. If you've ever had a moment where you looked at something completely ordinary and felt, in your gut, that it was slightly wrong, not wrong in a way you could prove, just wrong in a way you couldn't shake, I'd really like to hear about it in the comments, because that feeling is exactly what I haven't been able to put down since that drive home. A like means someone else finds this. And if you want to be here the next time something doesn't quite add up, subscribe. I'll be here.